Het is een bijzondere aflevering van KUKURU, want ik zit niet gewoon lekker aan mijn eettafel. Ik zit hier met een prachtig uitzicht in Amsterdam, waar de Biohacker Summit aan de gang is. En de keynote speech is zojuist gehouden door een man. Hij is eigenlijk net het podium af. Het is een hele bijzondere gast. En hij maakt even tijd om hier te zitten. Teemu Arina, it's an honor to have you here. And
my pleasure.
Yeah. So this was a great speech because this podcast is called KUKURU, and it's about the guru is inside you. And you had a speech about, don't trust gurus, trust yourself.
Yeah. And don't even trust that one, because that aspect might be a fake version of yourself that you created and invented yourself.
Yeah. But that's the whole thing. Isn't it always, like you were talking about the ego and the narrative identity, but isn't that always narrative?
Yeah, it's, when it comes to the narrative identity, we tell a story about our achievements, about our hardships in life, who we are. And that process starts already in early childhood. And it often skips certain parts, right? You kind of like push those under the carpet. We could like describe those also as part of your shadow. You don't like identify with some aspects that are actually a real part of your life, which is often partly traumatic. Like, I don't believe there is anyone who has no traumas.
No, exactly.
If you believe that you don't have any traumas, you probably are ignorant. You have a really big one. And you have a coping mechanism through which you are trying to avoid like facing the truth. And sometimes, traumas and the origin of traumas is not really in ourselves. That might be in our parents or peers and all these things. And trauma is not really what happens to you, but it's what happens inside of you. This is what Gabor Mate says, and I think he's absolutely right about this. And to me, to become the authentic self, I think there is lack of authenticity in our world right now. We could be more authentic. Everyone feels probably that, when you meet someone who comes across fake, or we see fake stuff or whatever, fake stories or products, like, we miss authenticity. It's in our hearts. We wanna, feel authentic. And actually, some of the most likable people are vulnerable. Like, they're actually able to tell, about their hardship and tell a really touching story and be honest with themselves. And this kind of honesty and authenticity is rare in our world, which is actually demanding us to show up as our strongest.
Yeah,
we are schooled for that.
But it's a thin line, because you were talking about narcissism in your talk, and sometimes people, and maybe myself, because I'm sharing all the time my story, talking with people, so there is my vulnerability and my real essence and my authentic self, but that's maybe mixed with a kind of narcissism. Always. When it comes to developing as a human being, we have mirror cells. We mirror others. Exactly. We copy, we imitate. This is one way through which we develop ourselves as we become individualized from our parents, and we separate from that symbiotic relationship. We become an individual. We start to imitate and copy others, friends, idols, musicians, podcasters, social media influencers, whatever. And maybe you are imitating Joe Rogan. Maybe you kind of are, someone who is wanting to be Joe Rogan. Well, okay.
Just many entrepreneurs want to be like Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg.
But is that a bad thing?
That's a very good question. Like, in the end,
like a role model can help you to.
We don't develop in isolation. We develop in interaction with others, and this interactive part is key for culture. It is for bonding. It is for tribalism. It holds us together. Imagine a tribal society. They're all reflections of each other. And in today's society, we are also reflections of each other. But the thing is that some people don't feel enough, No. You want to be Joe Rogan. One day when you wake up as Joe Rogan, you realize that that's not enough. I want to be Elon Musk next. So it might become pathological, meaning that it starts to hurt you and the people around you. This like lack of self-worth that is inside, that nothing feels enough. There is one pretty famous life coach, personal development coach in the country where I come from, Finland, and he portrayed, this idealized version of himself to his audience. And he did all the ice baths and he did all the breath work and woke up early and had all the butter coffees and did all these biohacks. Mm-hmm. And I had the opportunity to stay at his place for a few weeks, and I saw what it's really all about. That guy didn't sleep, like he had like insomnia, sleep problems, and he was famous for waking up early and having coffee. Yeah. So the truth was, he didn't sleep and wake up at 5 a.m. to make the coffee. He actually didn't sleep at all. And the fact that he was awake, he decided to make a social media post. Hey, it's 5 a.m.
Just rise and shine.
It's time to run after your dreams. And then he would, make posts like, okay, you need to educate yourself all the time, right? So he would like just sit in the sofa and watch television and drink beer. And then he's like, okay, I'm gonna make a post now. So he takes a book out of the bookshelf, browse it, finds a page, makes a post. Yeah, every day you should read a book. I read one book per day. He would post that online.
That's pathetic.
And that dude, like, he actually like completely collapsed. Like he went into a cycle for half a year where he couldn't sleep. Like he was like, he had like chronic fatigue, all these things. His cure was to tell the truth to his audience. So he made a very authentic post to his followers that actually don't follow me. Like I can't keep up, the character I created. We all have, these kind of weaknesses and insecurities, and I know many of you like think me as a role model, but you don't want to be me. And that's the same.
But then again, it's like a hero's journey. It's still a hero's journey, because even this bad part is a good part.
Exactly. Even though like he's kind of like Elon Musk, when a child in the audience asks like, how can I be like Elon Musk? Elon Musk tells like, you don't want to be me. The moment when you become authentic and you show vulnerability, he actually became a better personal development and life coach. Yeah. He became more respected because people saw authenticity, weakness, vulnerability in him, and he finally came out. It might be that people kind of sensed already subconsciously that there's a little bit of fakeness in this guy.
Great story.
So I think we need these kind of paradigm shifts sometimes in our lives, where life just slaps you in the face that, wake up, dude, what you're doing is not right, and it's not you.
You were talking about different neurotic strategies. Which one is yours? Submission, aggression, detachment?
Well, I'm definitely now comes the narrative self. Okay, I tell a story of my life. So I've been an entrepreneur since I was 16. Yeah. So I've been trained by that environment to be assertive, to be goal-driven. Yeah. To
started a website company after University of Art and Design, where you were
persuade
like the
people.
guy.
I'm a pretty good salesman. My father was also a salesman. So I can find ways to convince. And I would say like I'm a bit more assertive personally. So I'm maybe more aggressive. And the thing about like the one who is submissive is actually aggressive inside. The one who is aggressive is actually submissive inside, which is quite interesting. Like there's a
so you had this like maybe the aggression strategy was hosting people, was well,
and I basically burned myself out with it. I consumed myself because I was so driven. Like many entrepreneurs, they just burn themselves out.
Go
go, get things done, and compromise your own well-being. Sometimes even you have to compromise other people's well-being because some stuff just needs to get done. Companies actually exert aspects of psychopathy. Organizations. So if we move from individuals to organizations, if they would be diagnosed for a mental illness, an organization shows up characteristics of psychopathy. So think of let's say a chemical company that pollutes the environment. the leadership might actually be very environmentally friendly and they really want to drive that, but the company ends up polluting the environment. And often the people who are in charge, they do it because they believe it's in the interest of the company, or the company wouldn't survive unless we do this. It's the same story for wars also. Why soldiers follow orders? They believe, it's my duty, or it's in the interest of the country. And it starts to, like, this collective action starts to exhibit these kind of psychopathic traits of no compassion at all.
No, but I think you're right. All the big bosses, all the guys we know, and even the guys we don't know, they have this kind of disorder, narcissism or whatever. But that's what's driving the world in a certain way.
I remember I was consulting one company that is in the soft drink business. Mm-hmm. They were basically selling liquid sugar to people.
Yeah.
And the marketing people who came up with all the cunning plans how to sell it, they wouldn't touch their own drinks.
No.
They were, health conscious, exercise driven.
That's the whole social dilemma thing as well.
They were just getting money for doing stuff which was like just Darth Vader, material.
But let's get to your story, because it's very interesting. So you were this business guy, inspirator, maybe a guru, and then you got an ulcer. There's something with your stomach.
Yeah.
What was the moment? Because you got medication and it didn't work, or it came back, and you thought, no, I'm not going to use this whole my life. So you started to Google.
Yeah, I started to figure out how I can fix my problem. But let's go back to why I got ill. So often disease manifests when you suppress something.
Exactly.
So if you suppress your emotions, you're more likely to have autoimmune disease.
The body keeps the score.
Exactly. That's the story here. If you act out strongly all your life, you're not submitting, but you're the aggressive type.
Yeah.
You're more likely to have hypertension and get heart attack. You have actually strong immunity, because that actually strengthens our immunity. It's like aggressiveness and assertiveness. If you're a submissive person, you're more likely to have weak immunity, and you get sick easily, and you have autoimmune disease. You're if you hold these things inside of you and you don't deal with your problems, your body will, express those. So that's how I got ill. And in the end, now that I think about it, most of my interventions were to go back into recognizing my problem, and also coming up with behaviors that were the opposite of what I would normally do. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, previously I wouldn't sleep. I would just work late night and make PowerPoint presentations. I would just go to sleep, even if it feels like the world is collapsing, and sleep well. So I just made sure I'm doing the opposite of what I was doing. And also I was very honest about the fact that I didn't really enjoy partly what I was doing. And that's the thing, many people, they just do some stuff, and deeply inside they don't actually enjoy doing it. It's a bit, life is suffering, and it's hard. It's hard, like Jordan Peterson would say. You better do something with your life. If you don't do something with your life will come after you. Was that good imitation?
Yeah, pretty good actually.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
And then, you started to become this biohacker.
Yeah.
Do you love the name?
Biohacking. It's controversial.
Yeah, exactly.
But of course I need to tell a story, and I'm kind of masking, the problems of this whole term and industry by saying that there is actually something good in the bad of it. But biohacking comes to layman across as almost aggressive. You kind of hack into something, into a computer system or into the body.
Yeah.
And it almost comes across as terrorism for some people. They might think about, modifying organisms in the lab or something like this. But in the end, biohacking is an umbrella term that encompasses all kinds of aspects of using data to optimize, different systems. And it's a holistic term. You could say holistic health practices are part of biohacking, but also medical practices are part of biohacking. It's when it's driven by a hypothesis, you're into biohacking. You have a very clear idea why you're doing what you do. And the idea of hacking comes actually. It's not a negative term. It's Pekka Himanen, who is a philosopher. He wrote a book called Hacker Ethic, and in Hacker Ethic he describes how hackers are actually enthusiastic about the topic. So it's not a duty. It's not like some kind of duty like work, but it's actually a passion. You love it.
Yeah.
And you can be an astronomy hacker, you can be a geography hacker, you can be a...
It's like passion from inside.
Yeah, you can be a computer hacker, you can be a... So cracking is the act of like entering a system like maliciously, cracking.
Yeah.
But media took hacking as a term and transformed it into a negative term.
Yeah.
But I believe like terms like optimal human performance or health optimization or just better living through science, technology, and nature is a better description of what the kind of biohacking we look after is all about. It's understanding that we are never complete. You can never achieve an optimal or ideal. It's the pursuit of it.
But it's in a way of it's already good enough, because that's the whole point.
Yeah.
That a lot of people, and I think you know them all.
Yeah.
It's becoming like a church, and with
Indeed.
rules, and then there's more stress, and then
there is the Pareto's law, Italian mathematician, like the 20-80 rule, that 20% of work is done by 80% of people, and 20% of people own the wealth of the world, and so on. Like this 20-80 rule shows up everywhere. So the question is like, how do you figure out what is the 20% that will result in 80% improvement in your life? But the problem is that people actually spend their time on the 80% that only produce 20%, and to live optimally in terms of health or performance, like it's not about working 8 hours or 12 hours or 16 hours. It's not a competition on that front at all. It's not about efficiency. It's about effectiveness. So instead of just doing things right, you do the right things. If you do the right things, you don't need to work that much. And as a leader, I had to learn to let go a little bit of my ego that I'm the best one to do something. I need to delegate, and I need to tolerate weakness in others. I need to tolerate the fact that I feel I could do this better.
Yeah.
And this has been very humbling for me. And I learned that actually this makes things work better in the end. That my idealization of my own efforts and abilities is actually wrong. In the beginning, it might be like, someone else might do this podcast, interview even a bit more poorly, but they might actually develop to become better than you.
Yeah.
And maybe you just want to run the marketing for this whole thing. Who knows? Like, how do you let go of the identity that you created yourself, that you're Joe Rogan? You don't need to be Joe Rogan. You can actually create a podcast where every episode there is a different person who is just the right one to interview the guest, is doing the work.
Yeah.
But in the end, your followers are like identifying this podcast with you. So they're expecting you to be behind the microphone. So you become basically the slave of your audience, what they expect this to be, right? So
it's
and if you have guests that are not interesting or are not in line with what you have done in the history, they will let you know. And this is called the looking glass effect.
Yeah.
You're extremely conscious about the fact that other people are watching this or listening to this, and you will modify your behavior to basically attend to their needs.
Yeah.
And those needs might not be your needs at all, or your interests.
Yeah,
and
well, I'm...
become blind to these things.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I hope I stay sharp. A lot of questions. First, what is the use of the ego, according to you?
Well, ego, some people say that there is a healthy ego. It's possible to have a healthy ego, or you can have a malignant ego. The ego is not your true self.
No.
The ego is a representation or a reflection of your life experiences and the narratives and all these things, that the kind of story you tell about yourself. And to me, what is a healthy ego is that you don't take yourself too seriously, but you take yourself seriously enough.
Yeah.
And I
but
think
is there a use? Because I'm really into the Course of Miracles now. I don't know if you know it. And then it's all like the ego, it's about fear, and it's so just stay to your true essence, and then you have the power of love, actually.
Yeah, it's really about understanding that the self is a reflection of interactions with others, and you can't exist, you will actually die without others, or the ecosystem, or the plants, or the animals, or other human beings. You need them. But very easily, we become separated from others. We create a little bit of distance even. We create a little bit of competition. As society, we need to move from competition to collaboration, how we get things done, to understand that we are actually a global village, a global tribe that needs to work together to make sure that we don't destroy this planet. Because it's a kind of a malignant ego, does things for itself only.
Yeah.
Doesn't think about others. It's only about your success. Or it extends only to your family, or only to your company.
But how do you work with that?
As long as my people are good. It's about understanding that we are all the same under the sun. And it's a hard concept in the end, because there's a tribal aspect that we compete with nation states and borders and of resources and all that. And there's this whole separation of us and the others. But to understand that the others are us as well, to understand that every human being is actually you, that we are kind of part of the same universe and we are experiencing it from different point of view, just like a hologram. Is
that what spirituality is for you?
In the end, like if you think about what enlightenment is, like what is the goal of enlightenment, the kind of teachings very patiently start from the point of view that you let go of material possessions, you focus on the moment, you become utterly aware of the present moment and about the illusions, that what you experience is a reflection, that you are just not experiencing things directly, but it's a reflection of it, and there's a divine behind it, there's a veil in front of which you are like minuscule, but at the same time when you feel like you have nothing, you have everything.
Yeah.
And this is the like universal consciousness in a way, like we're all part of the larger whole, and it's easy to describe, right? But to actually come to the realization, to have this moment where you are like, oh my God, this is actually true. It's kind of like, it's easy to say that, hey, stay in the moment, but most of our pain and suffering comes from the fact that we actually live in the past, or we are anxious about the future and worry, and we are afraid of death. But if you accept your demise, you accept death, you accept the fact that everything you see right now is a reflection, it's not real. Only what is real is your experience of it, but that's also like a synthesis.
Yeah.
It's a point of view. And in the end, everything you love, everything you have will transform. You will not lose it, but it will transform in a way. You will also transform into something else. And that's where we get into religion, like what happens then, like maybe we can be very possessive and narcissistic about, our souls and like true aspects of ourselves, that it somehow like survives, the violent demise of your physical body.
Yeah.
I think that's also like a narcissistic coping mechanism, actually, to believe that you will live forever in a way, because you have no proof, right? You have to take a point of view, you have to believe, so it's actually a way of like soothing yourself. Religion is a way of soothing yourself in face of unknowns. When shit happens, people turn into religion because they have no way to describe it, so they rely on authority.
Yeah, to grab.
And the authority, it can be a guru.
Yeah.
But it can also be, something we describe as God or Father or the Great Spirit or whatever. But what if all of that is an illusion? It's only a story you tell to yourself to soothe yourself, to deal with the fact that you will die, and even this moment you don't have proof that this is real.
No.
This might be a simulation. You might be someone's like cunning dream, someone's computer program. And this is an interesting idea also, and that also is a religious idea. That is also a way of like explaining away the fact that you don't know.
That's how we started. Isn't it all like a narrative?
Yes,
yeah,
it is all.
And how do you train yourself? I'm guessing you're training that yourself as well to stay in a moment. To
all of the need to stay in the moment and stay in the body came from the coping mechanisms to deal with adversary, psychological, physical pain or trauma. So you can actually escape, the hardships and the pain of the body by going into meditation, by going into your body and meditation and relaxing into it and into the breath. And this practice of focus and attention is very helpful. So one person once said to me, if your life is hard and you're anxious and depressed, shorten the time frame. If you feel like you're anxious about 1 year, just shorten the time frame. Okay, 1 quarter. Feels better? No? Okay, 1 month. Feels better? No? Okay, 1 week. Is this week fine? No? Okay, 1 day. Is today fine day? Actually, it's pretty fine day. But there was some problems. Okay, 1 hour. Okay, this very moment
the
is
next
everything
second
fine?
There isn't a problem. Yeah.
So in the end, if you follow that thought, you realize that your suffering is your own making. You made it up, you invented it, and you can also invent another perspective, which is happiness, contentness with whatever situation. And this comes from the research of Holocaust victims also. They thought that Holocaust victims have very sensitive nervous systems and they are traumatized by the experiences. It's true for some of them, but the ones who have been able to overcome that and not commit suicide, they are actually completely fine with what happened.
Yeah.
It has become a part of them. They integrate that into their story, into their narrative. They tell themselves that I am this because of all that stuff that happened, and actually it was good for me. Can you imagine?
Yeah. It's Viktor Frankl, of course.
I just shared this morning my story of becoming a biohacker. From one perspective, my physical trauma, my mental problems, whatever that led me to those physical problems, were a good thing because it created me right here. So in the end, recognizing your shadow and loving your shadow and understanding that might be the best ever thing that happened to you. This is the truth also for psychedelics. It's not the grandiose, narcissistic, beautiful, most amazing trip and experience ever that is the most useful to you, but it's the one that kicks your ass, the one that slaps you in the face, shows you things that you don't want to see, that you feel like you actually died and you were reborn. And from that experience you can approach things with more consciousness and with more just empathy, and also towards yourself. And it's the integration then that waits
exactly, because otherwise you will have to use it every week, and then it's more like a god again.
And here comes the dark side of psychedelics. You can also become a grandiose psychedelic narcissist.
Exactly.
Psychedelics can become some kind of sport that you just perform ceremonies. You go from one ceremony to another as if it is some collectibles.
And then you feel the bliss and it all. And
and this fact that you know all, you might develop this spiritual grandiosism or narcissism where you believe that I'm above others. I've seen behind the veil. Other people are below me in some way or operating on a lower frequency because I'm now elevated into higher frequency and I see things. And actually the experience that you might experience in this kind of boundary dissolution space is that you start to believe you are God.
Yeah.
That there's a God within me. You are Shiva, you are Buddha, you are all of these. And this is a dangerous path. This is why it's very important that these things and tools are used with therapists and with that could be a shaman. But I believe also modern psychotherapeutes and psychologists can develop, and trauma therapists and therapists in general can develop protocols that are useful. But if you use these things alone on your own to amplify your spiritual or psychedelic narcissism, you actually become more of an asshole. And when there is all this research that shows, it treats depression, and all that, or it was most important experience of your life, that might be just the beginning of becoming more of an asshole. So in the end, there's always a dark side to the light.
And how do you do it yourself? Because this is the paradox thing that we are talking about this. You are standing at a stage. Well, we just walked here at the summit and I saw people oh my God, it's Teemu, which is which is a compliment for you, and you give inspiration.
Thank you. That actually soothes my traumas, and it actually gives me narcissistic supply. I actually created this conference as a supply for my narcissistic needs, and I was actually thinking about. I've done, dark factor tests, and actually my narcissism is extremely low, and I'm often, the person who gives more than takes. But even I give my health for this to happen. One of the unhealthiest thing ever is to organize a health conference. Don't try it.
That's a good one.
You will kill yourself. So, but in a way, this can be also a narcissistic supply, and I have to be very. When I walk there, everyone is like stopping me, like, great conference, awesome, what you done is amazing, like, and it's a hard work to just stay humble and say, I didn't do this. It's a collaborative effort. Like, I wouldn't be able to do this. It's because of all these great individuals I met. I'm just like, in the center of the whirlpool or the hurricane, trying to assemble an aircraft while it's landing. It's hard work, but in the end, I wouldn't be able to do this without others. We need others. But in the end, people want to identify me as the leader of this thing and give me all the credit.
But do you have a tool to stay on the ground and not to fly with all the compliments?
I just try to, demote myself from this position of... I've actually really, really hard tried to make sure I'm not speaking on stage over the years. But every year, it's just like one speaker cancels or whatever, and I end up doing it. But I want to give the stage to others.
No, but no. Sorry, you like it. It's not that you're standing there like, oh, I have to do this and I don't want it. It's like a passion.
It's a passion. I give 100 talks a year to different events and audiences, and when I create this, I want to create a conference where I actually want to hang out. And many conferences are actually not giving me much. I go there, give presentation, people clap, great talk. I don't learn a thing. But I have to travel, I have to, use all that stress, prepare things. So I try to change things, I get some reflection. I want to go places where I actually learn. So this is a place where I can kind of, in a self-indulged, self-centered way, I can build a community that attracts interesting characters. I just like to see what chemistry comes out of it, like what comes from those molecular reactions of different people. And this is a place where I want to hang out. So with that, I want to thank you of this interview, because I really want to go and enjoy this. Okay. Although, this broadcast is awesome, and this will give me narcissistic supply that other people hear and listen to me, and you're going to give me an audience, and it's going to grow my followers. And if you want to give me narcissistic supply, go and follow, Biohacking Book on Instagram, Biohacker Summit, and also Tarina, TAR1NA. Those are my Instagram accounts. I will share you all these things that will help you to become a better version of yourself and more of a self-indulged narcissist.
Can I ask 2 questions and then I'm
all right, okay. Let's do it.
Do you think biohacking is sometimes just a placebo? Which is, it works, but...
It's a placebo and a nocebo as well. If an activity tracker tells you didn't sleep well and there's some inaccuracies, like, it can affect your performance even though you just slept fine. And actually there's this whole idea of the more diagnosis, the more analysis you do of yourself, you find, like, everyone has a disease.
Yeah.
You might have a tumor, cancer, blood pressure issues, inflammation, whatever. And the fact is that most of those things won't kill you. Like, you might live long with the tumors and not die. And the interesting thing that comes from, like, studies on surgeries and so on, like, sometimes the best thing to do is not to operate. Really.
And to just let it happen?
Yeah, because the operation might actually lead to side effects and problems and, like, loops of, like, drug treatments and all that. I'm not saying that you shouldn't do. There's serious conditions, statistically it makes sense. But the fact is that sometimes we overdiagnose and overtreat. And this is the problem with biohacking. You might overdiagnose and overtreat yourself to the point where you don't know all the unknowns and variables, and you just screw up one thing.
Oh, that's great.
You're dead.
Yeah.
And maybe that's your destiny then.
Then it's, do you have a morning ritual?
Morning ritual. Oh, rituals is interesting because we want to emulate others. We want to learn their rituals. We want to learn what is your morning ritual? What is your evening ritual? You know what? Whatever story I tell you now, I'm not going to do it.
Great.
You ask anyone who tells their rituals or morning routines, trust me, they're not doing it. They might do it occasionally. They might do a little bit of it. If they actually do it, if they actually do exactly that sequence, I believe, they have a pathological problem. They need to go see a therapist.
Oh, I love you, Teemu. This is the last one. What do you think? What do you think of death? What are you afraid of it, or what do you think will happen?
Happen with what?
With you, like
with me?
With the flesh and the.
Yeah, I mean, I'm somebody becoming nobody. This is my life's mission right now. I think that's kind of a humble thing. If you can keep in your mind when you look at yourself in the morning, I'm somebody becoming nobody. If you can execute on that well, you're on your way to enlightenment, I believe. But still, that is a story you tell yourself, which is a narcissistic goal. You want to become enlightened.
It's the trap again.
So that's the last.
But how do you want to be remembered?
That's the trap. Many teachers will tell you, spiritual teachers will tell you that's the trap of believing that you're on your way to enlightenment. You might never be. Yeah.
How do you want to be remembered?
Oh yeah, Steve Jobs said, I'm here to make a dent in the universe, and I want statues built for me. And I want my face to be engraved in the products that I sell. Actually, it would be awesome if my name was on all the products. No, not really. In the end, you leave a mark in people. And one thing I learned by observing, spiritual people is that they bless everyone. You never know, even a homeless person, what you might be able to contributing to them if you are compassionate and you bless them in some way on your path, because they are all part of your path, you want it or not, as well. It's hard. It's very hard to tolerate, but tolerance and compassion and authenticity is the thing that is missing from this world, and we need it more. And if you can, take your own role in making sure as collective, we are helping this planet to elevate, to transcend all its collective traumas, to become, worthy of carrying the fire. Mm-hmm. Prometheus carried the fire of humanity. We all have to become the carriers of that fire. And, it's hard work, and you might burn like Icarus going too close to the sun with all your narcissistic bullshit. Aho.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Teemu. I love to speak to you someday longer about mastering resilience and all the great things you're doing. But this was
my pleasure.
This was inspirational.
Be well, my friend.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Dit was KUKURU. Tot de volgende. Zonnegroet. Hoi.